We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
23.
Hey, what is up, you guys? This is Steffi, aka In My Humble Opinion, and today I am finally back with a brand new movie review. This is a movie that has been out for several weeks now, so this is a little bit late, but I really wanted to talk about this movie because, spoiler alert, I really enjoyed it. So today I am going to be reviewing Love, Simon. So Love, Simon is a movie starring Nick Robinson, Jennifer Garner, Josh Duhamel, Catherine Langford, and Tony Hale, among a few other people. And it's directed by Greg Berlanti, and it is based on the book Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, written by Becky Albertalli. Just a really quick synopsis. I will try my best, but basic premise just to get you guys started in case you haven't seen it already. So Love, Simon is really a coming of age and also a coming out story about a high school student named Simon. Simon lives a relatively normal life, and he really lets you know he lives a relatively normal life in the beginning of this movie, except he has one big secret. He's gay. So one day, Simon gets a call from his friend letting him know that on their little online website, wannabe Gossip Girl high school bulletin, someone wrote an anonymous coming out letter saying that he was gay, and then they signed it blue. So after Simon reads this letter online, he basically emails this blue person and is like, oh my gosh, I totally know how you feel. I'm gay too. And they start this back and forth sort of online relationship. And over a period of time, Simon begins to catch feelings. And as you watch the movie, you're sort of wondering who is blue and if and when Simon is going to come out to his family and friends. So that's the basic premise of this movie. And I just want to warn you guys before I continue, this is not a spoiler-free review. I'm going to be giving you tons of spoilers, so if you haven't watched this movie, pause this video, find the movie at your local theater, go to the theater, watch the movie, come back and watch this video, because I really feel like this movie should be viewed by as many people as possible, and I wouldn't want you guys to watch this video and know who blue ends up being, because I'm going to talk about it. So without further ado, like in every movie review I do on this channel, I'm going to talk about the pros, and then I'm going to talk about the cons, and then I'm going to give my final rating. So here we go.
These last few years, it's almost like I can feel you holding your breath.
I'm supposed to be the one that decides when and where and who knows. That's supposed to be my thing.
Disclaimer, this is about to get romantic as F.
Okay, so now we're gonna talk about the pros of this movie. So the first pro I have is the story slash setup. When it comes to the story, what I really loved about it is that it was just focusing on, again, a normal high school teen who just so happens to be gay. I just loved that this teen was allowed to live a relatively normal life. I feel like when it comes to a lot of coming out stories or a lot of stories focused on LGBTQ people, there tends to be some sort of like tragedy linked to the character story, or they're either dying or they're ill or something really tragic or sad has happened to the LGBTQ characters. And while those stories are really important, I just love that this movie wasn't that. It just allowed their gay teen lead to just live a happy existence, and it was just a really refreshing watch. To get a little bit more into the setup, which I also really enjoyed, I loved like the whodunit element to the story. Like, I thought that was just such a fun, unexpected way to tell a story like this. The entire time I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, is it this person? Oh, maybe it's this person. And every time they were switching who the narrator was based on who Simon thought it possibly was, I was just like, oh, this is so good. I, at the end of the movie, was so happy it ended up being, spoiler alert, Bram. I was just so happy it was him. Okay, so the second pro that I have for this movie is I love that, and I hope this doesn't sound weird, but I love that this movie wasn't like aggressively trying so hard to be diverse. It just was reflecting the world as it was and telling the story. There's several characters who are people of color, and additionally there is a character who has biracial parents, and obviously your lead is a gay teenager. This movie also had a spectrum of gay, for lack of a better term. I mean, on the one hand you have Simon, who's a bit more reserved and still coming to terms with his own sexuality, and he isn't this flamboyant, out there, loud caricature that the media tends to stereotype with gay people. And then you have this other character named Tyler, who is sort of like your stereotypical gay. The marketing for this movie in general, it wasn't aggressive, like, see, look, you should watch this movie because this is a really diverse cast and blah, 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 blah. For me as an audience member and for me as a consumer of media, it feels very disingenuous when a movie or a TV show tries to throw that in my face. It's like, I get it, that's great, but just let the story tell itself. My third pro to this movie is the adults. The adults in this movie are fantastic. You have Jennifer Garner and Josh Duhamel, who play the parents of Simon. You have Tony Hale, who plays, I believe, the principal or vice principal of the high school. And then you have Natasha Rothwell, who plays Miss Albright, and she, I believe, is like the drama teacher. But in this section, I want to specifically talk about Jennifer Garner and Natasha Rothwell's performances. I love that Jennifer Garner's character, she just felt like such a mom. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but she felt so grounded and genuinely concerned for her son. And I just felt this maternal connection between Jennifer Garner and Nick Robinson. I thought they had a great mother-son chemistry. And there's this one moment in the movie when Jennifer Garner talks with her son, and I'm pretty sure this is after he comes out, and she says to Simon, when you were a child, I noticed how carefree you were, but as you got older, I noticed that it seemed like you were holding your breath, and it was almost as if you were waiting to exhale. And I was just like, oh my god, this is like, oh, so beautiful. Like, that moment right there, Jennifer Garner, like, amazing. Amazing. And if we want to be really honest, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but the Whitney Houston song they should have played in this movie was Shoop Shoop from Waiting to Exhale. All you gotta do is say, shoop-a-doo. Moving on to Miss Albright, played by Natasha Rothwell. She was a scene stealer. She was so funny. I love those little asides she would have when she would see the High School Musical production coming together and she was like, oh my god, they don't pay me enough for this. I was like, oh, she is so fantastic and funny, a true scene stealer. But for me, one of the reasons why I loved this character was because there's a moment when in the cafeteria when Simon is practically being bullied and harassed. Whenever they get to this moment in any teen TV show or movie, I always wonder, where are the teachers? Like, how come no teacher has stepped up? How come no adult has stepped up? But no, see, this character, Miss Albright, she was there and she put those two in their place. So I just love that this movie respected their adults enough to act like adults. Like, these adults weren't clueless or weren't detached to the teenagers in this movie at all. Like, they were really, really effective. My fourth pro to this movie is the realistic dialogue of the teens. Now, obviously what I mean by that is I felt like the way in which these teenagers talked was so realistic and authentic, and teenagers are smart. I get that, but sometimes when it comes to, again, other teen TV shows, 13 Reasons Why, or other teen movies, I feel like sometimes they try to make their teenagers sound a lot smarter than they really are. Whenever any TV show or movie does that, it really like takes me out of whatever I'm watching. But with this movie, I felt like they did a really great job with writing authentic, age-appropriate dialogue for their teenagers, where me as an audience member totally believes that yes, these are teenagers who exist in 2018. And I think that's also a testament to the performances of the teen actors in this movie. Moving on to my fifth pro, and I think this is probably one of my more important pros, but I loved how they showed and represented how Simon's coming out looked and affected the different relationships he had in his life. I love how when word had gotten out that Simon was gay, I think one of the first people who saw Simon was his sister, and how his younger sister was like a little scared and she was trying to understand and be there for her brother as much as she can. And then I loved how they had, again, like I talked earlier, Jennifer Garner, who was the mom of Simon in this movie, how she was very like comforting and was open and was trying to be as accepting of her son as possible. I loved how Josh Duhamel, who plays the father of Simon, he had to go outside and take a moment for himself and try to like come to terms with what had just happened. And then also when it came to Simon and his friends, I loved how Simon came out to the friend who he knew the shortest amount of time. That character's name was Abby. Simon basically said that, yes, you are the person who I've known like the least amount of time. But when it comes to these other friends who have known me like all my life, I just want things to stay the same with them for as long as possible. And like for me, like I totally get that. And my sixth and final pro, as like frivolous as this may seem, I absolutely adored and loved that little Whitney Houston dance montage that happened when Simon was imagining what his life will be like in college when he's finally out and he can just be openly gay. Like I just thought that moment was just so fabulous and fun. If you're watching this and you've watched my videos for a while now, it is no secret that I am a huge Whitney Houston fan. So when I heard like the beginnings of I Want to Dance with Somebody start to play, I was like, oh, it's happening, it's happening. So great. Okay, so now I'm gonna go really quickly into my cons. So my first con of this movie was, as much as I'm kind of gonna backtrack a little bit here, but as much as I really appreciated the fact that they represented like a normal teen, I felt like in the beginning of this movie, they were trying like aggressively hard to let you know that Simon was just like you. When Simon went through his whole spiel of like, I'm just like you. My mom was the valedictorian and my dad was the quarterback, and they were high school sweethearts and they married and they didn't peak in high school and we live in a really, really nice house and my sister is a gourmet chef. I was like, I'm pretty sure that not many people can relate to you on that level, Simon, but I mean, you do you. Once they got past that beginning, I was like, okay, this is better. But that aggressive beginning of, I'm just like you, I was like, okay, calm down. Okay, my second con for this movie was the Martin character. Now, the Martin character was clearly the antagonist of this movie. Spoiler alert, he's the one who essentially outs Simon to the entire high school. But for me, the Martin character was just too cartoonish and too over the top for me to take him seriously. Like, I understand that an antagonist always has to exist, whether that be in the form of a person or in the form of a situation or the environment or whatever. I understand like an antagonist needs to exist in order for the story to exist, in order for the story to have conflict. But I just felt like the Martin character was too, again, cartoonish and was too predictable at times. I honestly wish they would have made the Martin character a little bit more three-dimensional instead of them making us feel like, see, you gotta hate this guy because he's a really, really mean guy and da-da-da-da-da. Like, I really wish they would have given him more to do aside from just being the antagonist, or at least letting us know a little bit more about maybe why he acts crazy and does what he does. And my third and final con to this movie is the moment when Simon sees his friends in person for the first time after word has gotten out that he is gay. Two of his friends in particular are just glaring at Simon because essentially the fact that Simon kept lying is what kept those two characters from getting into a romantic relationship. The friends started to go into their whole spiel about, Simon, how could you? I felt like the narrative had taken a slight teen drama turn, and for me, I just felt like the movie was so much better than that. Like, I don't get why after this big monumental moment in Simon's life where the entire high school now knows that he's gay, the first time when you see your friend after that has happened, you're going to make it about you versus saying, hey Simon, I'm mad at you, but I want to be here for you, and what happened to you totally sucks, and I don't think it's fair that Martin should have outed you in front of the entire school. Like, what the hell, Simon's friends? Like, I was really, really mad at them in that moment. Maybe that's more of a personal qualm for me, but I just felt like that was very cliche teen drama. These teens are being selfish and thinking about themselves. For me, I just felt like the movie is so much better than that. Alright, so overall, I'm going to give this movie an A-. One of my initial thoughts after watching this movie, aside from, wow, I can't believe they played Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody, was I'm just so happy that this movie exists in the world. Like, truly, I'm just so happy that a movie like this exists. And I can't imagine how much of an impact this movie will have on young people who are in high school or maybe even in grade school or middle school. Like, this movie will have a very positive legacy. And alright, that's about it for this movie review. If you liked it, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and please turn on the notification button down below so you know when a new video from me comes out. And comment down below, have you seen Love, Simon? I hope you have if you've gotten this far, but have you seen Love, Simon? And if you have, what were your thoughts on the movie? Let me know in the comment section below and we will continue the conversation down there. I will be back next Wednesday with another movie review, a long-awaited movie review, especially if GFoil69, if you're watching this, you know exactly which movie I will be reviewing next Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. As always, everything I said was just my own personal thoughts and all in my humble opinion, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!